Hey, folks, welcome to another episode of Whose WordPress Agency Is This Anyway? My name is Kurt Van Onen. I'm here with Toby Crines, and we're here to discuss kind of the ins and outs, the ups and downs, and everything about running an agency in the WordPress space. Toby, how the heck are you?
Doing great, Kurt. So a member of our community wrote this, and they might want to take credit for it, but I'm just going to read this verbatim. So my $6,500 proposal got turned down today over a provider that agreed to build it for no money down and $300 per month. But then the customer said, quote, I would have preferred to use you, but my brother wanted to save the money up front. And if these people can't get it done, then I'm sure we'll come back to you and hire you for the 6,500. End quote. That is a lot to process right there.
There's a lot to process, and let's just let that monkey out of the bag. That was me. Um, I gotta say, and it was so weird because it was a lead that came from someone that I work intimately with, right, with their program, and so I am the expert in that space, just plain and simple, right? There's a handful of us, but like you look at that handful and you go, oh, I'm going to hire Kurt, I'm going to hire Manana Nomas. I need experts on this. I did the introductory phone call. That went really, really well. Turns out this customer is from where I used to live in California. So we had a lot of similarities, a lot of things we could talk about, right? What about this restaurant, this thing? What was the commute on the 91 like? Ha ha ha, I'm in Kansas now. Like the vibe was really good. The vibe was like awesome. So then I said, here's the next step. I don't want to waste your time now. Here's some questions I'm going to have for you. Let's do a needs assessment call. I'm not going to charge you for the needs assessment on this one because I think we can be pretty direct after this conversation, and I'll get you a full proposal. And so I did that, and out of good faith made the proposal. And I'm not begrudging saying I should have charged for the proposal, but I'm just saying I did it for free. And then because we had a great relationship, there was really good energy there, synergy, and I understood his business because I've had connections to his business in the past. I'm like, this is a perfect fit, and I'm the expert for what you're trying to build. So perfect. So I give him a $6,500 estimate. Truth is, probably could have been a 10, could have been 11, $12,000 proposal. But I thought, oh, let's make it 6,500 bucks. I have a good understanding of his business. I know how this is going to work. There's not a lot of hidden things here. Let's just knock this out. 6,500 bucks. Here you go, dude. I'm giving you a solid. And then he said, thanks, I got it. And then the very next day, hey, can you give me a call? So I gave him a call. And he says, man, I really wanted to go with you. I thought we hit it off well, and you really seem like you know what you're doing. But my brother, who is my partner, he found somebody that would do it for no money down and $300 a month uh, to knock it out. And I thought to myself, you're going to pay someone $300 a month for the rest of your life on this website, as opposed to $6,500, have it done in 30 days, and then just pay for hosting and maintenance, which I thought was just a crazy way, like pay me now or pay me later kind of thing. And it is a lot because I said, hey, business is business, no hard feelings. If the people you hire need advice from the expert on how to use this product, let them know they can reach out to me, and I'll only charge them my normal agency rate to help them. Or if it doesn't work out, give me a shot. He goes, yeah, because I don't even know if these guys can really do it or not. But if they
Right.
can't deliver, we'll come back to you. If you don't have any faith in who you're hiring, why are you hiring them?
Uh, well, $300 versus $6,500.
For the
Reminds
rest of
me.
their lives.
um,
In 2 years, they'll spend more with that provider than they would have with me.
right, right. They clearly don't have a lot of faith in their business if they're hiring somebody they're not even sure can get the job done.
We just need the website for 6 months, bro.
Yeah, yeah, and maybe that's not. Yeah, exactly. They're like, well, maybe we'll go out. Maybe we'll quit in 3 months, and then, or maybe they're thinking. I mean, we don't know the terms of this 300 per month. They might have this guy build it as a prototype, and then come to you and say how much to basically do something like this. Now that we've learned something, I could see that scenario.
So let's say that you're right. Let's say that that's the case, right? They have someone else build it on the cheap. They give them the 300, the 600, whatever. And then they go, this ain't working out. Let's migrate the site to Kurt and have him finish it up, right? I just got to ask you, where would you be in that conversation?
Well, first of all, that initial discount you gave, the half off, that's out the window at this point. They've just, yep, now it's the $12,000 price tag, maybe more for the plus a couple grand for the migration. Um, you know, that's how I would approach it after a scenario like this, because now because they've given away all their leverage in that case.
Yeah. Yeah. I I actually, the way I run Manana no Mas is so transparent and so based on ethics. I would probably turn down the work
Mm-hmm.
because I would be like, you leverage somebody for thousands of dollars worth of work on the faith that you would stay with them. You let them do the hard, it's not the hard part of the build in my book, but for this provider, it's probably going to be the heavy lifting, right? Let them do the heavy lifting for 600 or 900 bucks and then try to bring me, the touch up the details and get a discount. No, that's not the way it's going to work.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would probably turn it down because I would consider that highly unethical. But and people listening to this probably think I'm crazy. They're like, why would Kirk just turn down stuff? Um, because when you get to a certain point, when I was starting out, I took all kinds of jobs, anything I, put food on the table. But now that I'm at where I'm at in life, I can say, you know what, you're just not a really good fit for us right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The ethics of that would really bother me,
Mm-hmm.
unless it was a fresh start. If they were to say, hey, it didn't work out, we had to cancel our
Right.
contract with them, can we restart with you and start from scratch? Then I would say, okay, that's an ethical thing, right? We weren't
Yeah.
happy, we want to use you and start from scratch. But if they tried to bring me some remnant of a startup from something, it's that, to your point, that's worth more than starting from scratch because you got to figure out what somebody else tried to build.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and in fact, that 12 grand's probably higher. Like if that's what you would have bid the original, like let's say it was worth 12 grand to me, like let's say I'm bidding it. They come back, they say, we did a bunch of stuff and now we need you to fix it. Now it's more than 12 grand. Like, yeah. So I'm like, now I got to unwind that and redo it. Like,
yeah, it sounds really hard, but when you hear something like, because there's a lot of SaaS projects that do this now, right? Sign up for SaaS, get the first month for free,
Mm-hmm.
$179 a month for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Does it make you as an agency second guess your pricing model? Do you think, hey, maybe I should go to some, you know, higher monthly based, right? Because if you're
Right.
doing the hosting and maintenance, you're probably 30, 50, $70 a month, right? For a lot of packages. Maybe you're at 150 a month. I don't know what you're at.
Mm-hmm.
But then you think to yourself, man, I could charge 400 a month, but not charge them the $3,000 up front to do something.
Right. I think that there's this idea that I read about in a book. The idea is you want to, like in an ideal world, every agency wants to be in a place where you're the expert, the go-to guy. And I think you're probably there with Lifter, like where people go, get me Kurt at any cost.
It sounds good when you say it.
And people do say that about all sorts of stuff, I just want it to work. And we just went through this with our realtor. We have the worst realtor in America working for us. Maybe not the worst, but definitely not the best. And with the only reason we chose him, we went on good faith. We're like, he had 2,000 5-star reviews on Google. And I did research. I think they were all legit. Like I was like following through on a handful of them. I'm like, these look like real people in Minneapolis. And so let's say they're all legit. They're all 5 stars. We hired him because he was $5,000 less than the person we wanted to hire. We've regretted it every day since we started.
That's so hard to hear because a house is a big deal.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's a big deal, right?
Yeah.
And it's people take for granted these giant purchases in life, cars, houses, things like that. And to that same point, we're in the web space. When you make a decision to have a relationship with a website provider, that's another big decision.
Yeah.
I think of it like this whole web pricing thing has me thinking in terms of like CRMs, right? Think about normal CRMs, right? I sign up for a CRM and it's $200. No big deal. My business becomes successful. I got 5,000 people in the list. All of a sudden my CRM's costing me $600 a month. And then boom, we had a CRM come through Manana no Mas about 2 years ago. and they were paying Infusionsoft or Keep, or however you refer to them now. It was great. It was like $7,800 a month. And I was like, we can just put that on a subdomain in Fluent CRM, hook you up on SendGrid, and that budget goes away. Like,
Right.
boom. But that
Yep.
decision to leave everything that was built in Infusionsoft and Keep, it becomes almost a lifetime decision.
Yeah.
To rebuild that somewhere else is a real pain.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
but
that,
they get you.
they get you. And like, so the question is, yeah, this was this $300 a month scenario we're talking about. They
Yeah. How long
maybe
did you
they'll be
keep it at
great.
300 a month? If it
That-
if that website got successful and you had to say, "Hey, your bandwidth has exceeded your web server resources. We got to bump you to 900 a month."
right.
Or what? Yeah.
Yeah, and that's probably a likely. I mean, how else could you make that work unless it's it can't be they can't make a living in the United States on that. I don't, unless they somehow have a lot of those. Um,
Well, there we go. Let's move on to something else.
yeah,
You and let's just call it what it is, right? So you do SEO, you do SEO strategy, and then someone buys the SEO strategy from you. How do you respond, or how did you respond when someone said, "Oh, I'm not happy with this"?
yeah, it's interesting. So I'm talking with my SEO guy, Glenn. He's a full time employee, and he delivers SEO strategy and executes on that strategy for clients. Now, some of our clients, he just delivers a strategy and says, "Here, execute on this strategy," and other times we do it. Um, and what we're thinking today is that like those options aren't working for us. Like what we're thinking is like because we have a client who we delivered the strategy for, and they're not doing any of the executions. So it's like we can see a scenario where they go on Google reviews and say these guys suck at SEO,
Yeah.
but like because none of the work was done, we did the strategy. And so we're like, okay, the strategy is X, and to deliver the strategy would be could be 10x to deliver the strategy.
Yeah.
So significantly more money. And so we're like, do we just sell that 10x cost product? Let's say it's 30 grand versus 3 grand, something like that. Um,
Well, it becomes a math equation, right? How many of those 3 grand projects do you lose versus 30 grand projects do you keep? Right. But the other side of it is you're absolutely correct. People don't people don't recognize that a lot of what they're paying for is access to you as the expert. I went through this when Mañana No Mas first launched. When I was in New Mexico, a bunch of broke startup businesses were referred to us through the Economic Development Center. And they would get a meeting and they would come in and well, you're going to have do you have a Facebook? Do you have a Twitter? Because that was Twitter back then. Do you have a Twitter? Do you have a this? Do you have a that? Okay, great. Well, here's what we're going to do for you. We're going to build this simple website. We're going to activate these social accounts. We've got 75 other social accounts that we currently manage, which gives us instant access to all of those audiences. And we're going to cross post between those different accounts. And we're going to build you, a following list pretty quickly. And then we're going to and I went through and said what we're going to do. Well, those were free meetings. And then people didn't hire me, right?
Mhm.
Because I got a lot of referrals from the Economic Development Center. So I wasn't
Mhm.
charging these people $50 a meeting.
Mhm.
So I was doing these free meetings. And then about 6, 9 months into this, I started getting weird feedback from people like, oh, so and so talked to you, but they said your advice was crazy or your advice didn't work or blah. And I was like, well, they're not customers.
Right.
They're not customers. They paid me nothing.
Uh,
They sat in my office and they took mental notes of stuff that they had no skill set to execute.
uh,
And then said that I was full of crap and that I don't know what I'm doing. And so we changed a lot of our policies. I mean,
mhm.
that was before Mañana No Mas was Mañana No Mas. We used to be Van Anen Designs and PR.
Mhm.
And then once I had a mental snap at the office and changed the name to Mañana No Mas, all that stuff went away.
Mhm.
I think it comes down to like when you think about hiring anybody for anything, it's hard to even know if you have a good person if you've never experienced the good person.
Yeah.
That's what I
Yeah.
think about that realtor. Like these people, maybe they've never had another realtor and they're like, oh, this is just how realty is done. Now I've had 2 other realtors and I'm like, both of them were better. One was way better. Like,
Yeah. And it's really hard to be like, I'm going to fire you and bring in this other cat,
yeah, it
75% of the way through the process.
exactly. And you probably don't even know that you have a bad one. You just, most of the time, you're just like, I don't know, I guess web developers are jerks or whatever, like,
Well, I think the follow-up question to this SEO question you had is the value of the SEO in the process or in the results of the process? And then how would you figure out an aggressive, fair
yeah.
compensation package for yourself if you based it on one or the other?
This is like, to me, the core question of anyone who does SEO or Google Ads. Like, in theory, we should only be paid if we generate leads. That's because that's what people want to pay for.
Yeah.
They're like, they don't want more traffic. Most of them, some of them do, weirdly enough, but like most of them actually want leads.
Hey, look at all
Like,
these impressions I got here.
right. Some of them are like, I mean, this is crazy. I've had a few. They're like, oh, thank you so much for the impressions. Like, um, but like I think, and this is where I want to push my agency, is to just be accountable to the leads, and then you can talk about how to compensate for that. But I was talking with Glenn. There are agencies that do that, and they'll say like, "What's a lead worth? It's worth $50,000. We're going to take 20% of 50,000 for every lead, and you're just going to pay us that. That's an option to
Yeah.
structure this. We're going to do the work for free." Or maybe some nominal fee. Another thing, there are agencies that do it. What they say is we're going to collect 80% of the budget up front. And if we reach a certain target of leads, we're going to collect another 20%. And interestingly enough, this was another twist that I thought was fun. Glenn, my SEO guy, was like, some of those agencies are actually paying the SEO people on the team that bonus, like to incentivize them to generate the leads. And I was like, that's really interesting. If it motivates you to work harder, like, why not?
I'm a really big fan of pay for performance schemes when they work. And that comes from my automotive and power sports background, right? Technicians get paid based on flat rate. They get paid for the amount of work they get done. However, it's one of the most unfair payment plans in the world because the work the technician gets is from the service writer, the service manager. If the parts are late, it's the part's fault. Like there's way too many things that can interfere with a productive technician being productive, which means they make less money than they could have made. But in the SEO example that you provide, I think, and boy, you really got to take me with a grain of salt on this one. I think there's a ton of SEO service providers that take on clients selling a process knowing full well there's going to be zero success with that client. Like you look at their copy, you look at their website, you look at what their product or their core messaging, and you're like, even if I got you a gazillion impressions, you're not going to get any leads off of this because your product sucks.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a really hard conversation to have with people. But I think that if you went to a results versus processes model, then you would be able to filter your potential customers better. And you would, or have that conversation that says, I really feel like your product's on the mark, but your messaging is off. And we need to make
Yeah.
all of these other changes. And then you could sell a whole refresh.
Yep. And I think like it's hard though as an agency owner, um, to because the process is the thing you have the most control over. And so I mean, I don't know, 99% of SEO agencies sell a process. They say, we're going to do 3 blog posts a month, 10 social media posts. We're going to look at the data every month. We're going to revamp 1 landing page a month. And maybe they scale up to 2 or 10 per month. And maybe it's 60 blog posts a month. But like, that's generally across the board the deliverable. And I also think as another like step, AI, SEO, people are being using AI for SEO now. But if we as an agency are positioned in a place where we're getting leads, AI cannot get you leads.
Yeah.
But they won't.
Yeah.
Yeah, who knows what the future holds? But even Google's not going to Google will not allow that
No.
because that's their revenue. Like Google, you pay Google for leads effectively. That's how they make their
Yeah.
money.
Yeah. We're in some super interesting territory here. It reminds me of all of the spam I got on my phone for the last 2 or 3 days. Uh, that really ridiculous concept. It's some woman on the ad, and it's like, you don't need a website, you don't need webinars, you don't need this, you you don't need SEO, you don't even need a website. Nobody uses a computer anymore.
Right.
Everybody uses apps on a phone. You need your own custom app to make passive
Yep.
income. And I'm
Uh-huh.
like, your own app to passive income with what? What's your content? And they're and they're telling people if you're not making $50,000 a
Right.
month, you don't even have a business. And I
Right.
was like, I don't make $50,000 a month. What?
The one thing too, like just about those numbers, I get it. Like, um, those numbers that can, even if you are making 50 grand a month, it can be very misleading. There's a guy that I met the other day, just yesterday. He owns a business. It's in the business furniture space. He basically refurbs business furniture, and he says it's $1 million a year business right now, and he's only been going for like 3 months. But I'm thinking in my head, I go, that's impressive. First of all, million in sales, impressive. However, how much of that are you taking home? Because furniture ain't cheap to source. Like a chair that you're selling for, let's say, $75 might cost you $50, and you have to refurb it. Like, so even that 50 grand a month, I always think like, as an agency owner, let's say you're a solopreneur, 50 grand's way more than if you're have 4 employees or contractors. And
Yeah. Yeah. $1 million in sales a year, but thank goodness I only have to pay $950,000 for inventory and labor and rent
right.
and utilities.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Oh my
I
goodness.
always think with this stuff, I'm going to twist this a little bit in terms of those silly ads, market those really scams, but like a lot of them are. But like the idea, like what should we be paying attention to as business owners, as like bottom line metrics? That's what I'm really curious about. Like, for example, here's something you could pay attention to: how much in credit card fees did I pay this year? The more, if I paid more, it means my business is doing better. I've had more transactions. I've
Yeah.
had more money coming in. You could pay attention to like things that really like move the needle for your business. Revenue is usually not the needle that's going to like tell you if you're success or not.
Yeah, it is hard, right? Especially as you grow because you're splitting that revenue in so many different fragmented ways. There's just silly stuff. Silly stuff. I went to two giant screens and a desktop this year instead of working off of a laptop. I love it. I think it's better for I'm more productive. There's like a bazillion reasons why it was the right decision. But it was still a couple grand in expenditure, right? And even though my revenue's up, that comes right off the top. That's not
Mm-hmm.
that's you might be able to do that collateralized, spread out over your taxes, blah blah blah. But I swipe the credit card all at once for this junk,
Mm-hmm.
so
Yep.
it comes right off the top. What can we switch gears?
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Was it last week or 2 weeks ago that we had talked? You said, "What do you do if a client cancels a project midstream?"
Yeah.
What do you do if a client cancels a project midstream? And this topic to me is so interesting because, I'm on Post Status, I'm on the WP Minute, I'm in all these places, and you see crazy stuff from people that run agencies, right? I talked to a guy, I'm friends with a guy who goes, I won't even talk about a project unless it's $35,000
Right. Right.
or more. And I'm like, I don't know where that comes from because
Right.
I, I gotta talk, I gotta have more conversations than that.
Yeah.
Um, and there's people that say, screw them. Once it starts, I got a statement of work, I got a contract, the money's the money, that's that, I'm keeping it. And
Mm-hmm.
then you get other people that say, oh, bummer, I got to give them all their money back. And so there's this huge disparity in what we as business owners believe is the right thing or what we have to do thing is. And so I'm interested to see where this goes.
I think you brought up something earlier: ethics. Ethics are very relative to the person. Like everybody's ethics are going to be defined slightly differently, and some are vastly differently than others, and some of it's situational. Um, I just lost my train of thought, Kurt.
Oh, I thought you were doing that whole purpose pause thing.
I thought so
Um,
too. I
but
was
it was
hoping it would
perfect.
come back, and then it would seem like that.
Dude, I'm telling you, it was perfect. You were like, I've got something really intuitive to say. Listen to this. And then just
Gosh.
went blank. But I think this is where you're going. Um, if you're gonna have to deal with, so you say it's a customer that changed their mind halfway through a product and now they want a refund, right? And then you mentioned ethics. I go through a lot of things. First off, if a customer cancels and they want their money back, they just became not a customer.
Yes.
They just became not a customer.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I think that's a very important thing to distinguish. Now they've become somebody that has become more like a parasite than a customer.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have no problem whatsoever saying, oh, because I use project management software. So I'm able to say, here's the milestones, here's the thing. And there's a dashboard that says, hey, congratulations, your project is 28% done. Your project is 42% done. So I have no problem saying, well, according to the dashboard, your project's 42% done. I can give you a 66%, no, that's not what, 56% refund. I got no problem with that.
Mm-hmm.
What I had a problem with, this just happened last year. I had another agency subcontract me for LMS work. So they're responsible for the site, the hosting, all they want is the help with the LMS work. And of course, they had some custom coded weird stuff that they did not disclose as we started the project that really turned this whole thing into a nightmare. And they were trying to convert from LearnPress, I think it was, to Lifter LMS. And so there was a lot of conflicting stuff in the database, and I had to do a lot of extra work. And in the end, they, the contractor, lost the work with the customer. And then they were like, oh, so we just want a refund. And
Right.
I was like, you're an agency who screwed the pooch, and you're asking me, another agency, for a refund. I'm like, that takes a lot of stones. So then I said, hey, not only is the majority of the work done on our part, but we had to go above and beyond because you didn't do proper discovery with your client, right?
Mm-hmm.
Bam. So she went to that portal and she
Mm-hmm.
said, well, it says it's 36% done,
Right.
so I'll just take a 64% refund. And I said, let me fix that portal for you real quick. Click, click, click. Look at that. You're 91% done. If you want that 9%, let me know.
Yeah. So I ran into this. So this is um we had delivered in this case 30 something hours, let's say 35 hours of work that we've completed. And the deliverable was 2 mock-ups of the homepage. So it, from a milestone perspective, it's 10% done, but from an hours perspective, it's 35 hours. And so I asked around, and we talked about it last week. And what I decided to do was just charge our agency rate for the hours. And also like your comment about you are no longer a customer.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to bend over backwards for you or give you special discounts. So I just said, we worked 35 hours. You paid us X. We'll give you a refund for the difference. He was clearly upset because he's like, that much money for 2 simple mock-ups?
Yeah. Creative is expensive.
And I'm just like, I didn't cancel the project. Like, I would love to see this through and you would get all that money's worth and more. Clearly we gave you a good price because it was a good price. It was a really good price. So there's ethics. There's also I think as an agency owner, I used to give full refunds. I think I'm done with that. After this experience, I think I'm like, no refunds. We will save it as credit for future work if you want.
Yeah, that takes me right back to right fit, right time. because I've done that in the past too, and I've had it bite me where I've given people a credit, and then they get in touch with me because, you know, heck or high water, they're going to use that credit, and then they want me to do something inanely stupid, and
Uh,
and then I have to say, you know what, let me just give you this money back because
uh-huh.
this is more baggage and burden than I'm willing to carry.
Uh-huh.
Um, I had Speaking of friends, this is one of those situations. I had a friend reach out to me and say, "Hey, you used to do really good PR work. I know you're ethical, blah, 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 blah. Will you help me? I'm launching a new product and I want to have some PR work done, this, that, and the other thing." Now, what he asked for, super, super simple, Toby. Super simple. And I was like, "Hey, you're a buddy, you're a friend. I'm not going to give this to one of my I'm not going to give this to one of my team. I'll handle it myself. I'll knock it out for you in a weekend. It's $500, but I need these assets from you to make this happen." A month goes by, no assets. I send a reminder email. I said, "Hey, I'm not trying to nag you." He sends back, you're awesome. Not nagging at all. Thanks for trying to keep me in line. I'm really busy with other things. I'll get back to you." Another month goes by. Now I'm not going to send him a nagging email,
Right.
right?
Hmm.
Now the question is, do I just send him back the stupid $500 because he's a buddy and I say, "Hey, I haven't really, other than a couple of reminder emails and worrying about you, um, I haven't done anything. Here, take the $500. You're not the right fit for us anyway."
Yeah, and maybe this is that ethics, like the in my how I have handled that in the past is I keep the money. I'll still do the work, but I've already invested phone calls,
Yeah,
worrying. I mean, the overhead in my brain. Like, I
yeah,
feel like I'm deep in this at this point, and you've dropped the ball, and you probably don't care that much about the money because you're not responding and like
yeah.
the motivation. So, in most cases, I would probably keep the money. Did you decide to keep it or give it back?
Well, as of now, I still have it. Because it's like, to your point, right? I'm more invested in this than you are. I've already done mock-ups. I've already created an outline. I'm just waiting for your content to plug in the necessary things and publish these on the channels I promised to publish them on. But it falls down to one of those things, and I just chastised a fellow agency owner about this morning. You know, if and this is where I'm at with this now. This is where I'm at with it now. If something's super simple, super easy, and it's a friend, if I can afford to give it away for free, I just do it for free. I just do it for free. It's like loaning somebody money. Never
Yep.
loan more money than you couldn't give away, right?
Yep. Uh huh.
Uh, I'm just going to do it for free. The moment they cross over into it's not super simple, it's a project,
Mm-hmm.
it's retail. It's
Yep.
it's it's going to be full blown retail. If you're a friend, you already know the value I bring to the table. You're going to value that. You're going to recognize it, and you're going to pay retail.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's where I'm at with these things now. I trying to give friends and insiders the buddy price. It never works out.
I would also echo that advice. I do work for friends, but I do charge them retail. Um, Even if it's something simple, I'm just like, here's what it costs. And I think like there's a discipline in business that you need that would behoove you to learn if you haven't learned it. It's like create firm boundaries about around that work, like regardless of who you're selling it to. Like I would advise any agency owner to do that. I've seen bigger agencies do that too. Like they're hoping for like the next project, so they like give away this big project, um, and I like in hindsight, I'm like, well, first of all, I feel like it rarely leads to that next project in the cases I've been involved with, where I've
Yeah.
helped other agencies on those projects, and I think it's a bad way to do it. Like give away the free stuff, like unless it's a friend. Like if it's truly free, like hey, I just want to help you, I'll do it for free, and I'll send one of
Yeah.
those invoices with everything zeroed out, like so you know it took time and energy. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. I do document my processes just like you just said. You know, this is what this would have been. Um, I guess that brings us to motivation.
mm-hmm.
So part of the reason I said yes to that friend, quite honestly, was I hadn't done any PR work in a while. And when he reached out to me and said, I know you're good at this, blah, 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 it was kind of like, hey, here's another chance for me to stay fresh, stay crisp, dip my toes in the water. It's a friend. I can knock this out real quick. I should have just said I would do it for free, but I didn't. I said, oh, I could do it for 500 bucks because I felt weird about offering it for free. So I should have said, yeah, I can do that for you. It's 2,500 bucks.
Hmm.
Right. But instead I said, it's just 500 bucks. And because I said it was 500 bucks, I think it lowered the value to them. I think it made
Yeah.
it less important,
Hmm.
right? So, like I said, insider pricing always comes back to bite you in the butt. But part of how I stay motivated was this is a chance for me to pick up work I'm looking to do anyway. But how do you stay motivated? Like if you're juggling multiple projects or well, you already talked about having a difficult client, but you get through that whole rebate refund argument email exchange. How do you keep that from like dragging you into the mud?
It's really hard, man. Like, first of all, that the energy that I expended just to get to the point where I called yesterday, where I called this client, this former
Yeah.
client who's canceling, it took days of my mental health space up, like just to be like, not only mental health, but just like I'm calling like colleagues. We talked about it last week. I've had hours of conversations just to get to the point where I felt comfortable to call. Um, so it's really hard. And after that, I'm like, all right, I'm ready for bed. Like that was a lot. It's over. Hopefully, I'm still crossing my fingers. I won't hear back, that sort of thing. But yeah, then I go. There's a whole inbox full of stuff waiting, and those people in my inbox have no idea what just happened, and they don't care really. Like.
No.
Um, so here's one thing I think that works for me, and I don't know that it works for everybody, but you just got to show up. Bring your laptop to the table, open it, and just start going. Like in a way, like so I think I find that motivation might be the wrong word, but like I'm able to get back into the groove that way.
So what you just described is discipline, not motivation,
Mm.
right? You described stick-to-itiveness, uh, you know, discipline. Discipline's lost on a lot of people in society right now. So if you are in position to exhibit discipline, from a leadership perspective, kudos to you, right? Because a lot of people need motivation because they lack discipline. So,
Good
so
quote.
if you have the discipline, you're 10 steps ahead of the rest of the world. Honestly, honestly. Discipline is something that, well, Tuesday was a perfect example. I was tired Tuesday, like you had said you were tired. My wife came home from work and no, she didn't work on she was off on Tuesday. Yeah, she was home. And I said, "Hey, the business meetup is tonight." So once a month there's a business meetup at Sand Hills Brewery. And I go. I always go. And I didn't want to go. I didn't want to go. But there's a new person in charge of the startup hutch thing in town. So it's his first event, right? And I'm like, oh, it's Graham's first event. I don't want to go. And then I was like, I told my wife, I said, come with me. And she goes, I'm not leaving the house. I don't want to get dressed. I don't want to put shoes on. I don't. And I was just like, oh, I don't want to do it either. And I almost sat with her and just watched TV. I went. Graham's there. A guy named Travis is there. A guy named Matt is there. Like I ended up networking with a ton of people that were like, what do you do? And I was like, well, this is what I do. And they go, oh, that's so needed here. Oh my God. Can I have your card? How do I reach you? What's your website? Oh, I love your website. And I was like, when I came back, I was all energized again. The motivation kicked in from that. Right.
Yeah.
So discipline led to motivation in that instance. But it's one of those, whenever I do something I don't feel like doing, generally the reward is a 5x experience. It's
Yeah,
like
and
the
I
days I don't want to get dressed and go to church. For some
yeah,
reason, the message is just for me from the pulpit.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, I didn't want to come today. And then he's like,
Yeah, right. Y- I find similar like so I went to the no code meetup again, second time yesterday. It's at
oh, I went looking
7:30
for that.
a.m. 7:30 a.m. I rode I so here's when you think about motivation and um I wanted to go to it. I was actually kind of excited to go. So I guess I was motivated to go. But the question for me was, do I bike there? And it's a 30-minute ride in pretty intense heat, but although it's 6:30 or 7 a.m., not super intense, but um the question is, do I bike there and show up all sweaty and gross and have those problems, or drive there knowing that like I would feel better about myself if I rode? Like probably would lose some potential connections because I'm sweaty and whatever. But so I rode, and yeah, and like, and maybe that is the just showing up, like just discipline.
Yeah.
But I think like going there, like inspired other ideas. So then I left motivated, like you're saying. Like I'm like, oh, now I have 100 ideas. Like came here with none. Now I have 100.
Just what I needed, 100 more ideas.
Yeah. um, so it's interesting. I've never thought of it that way, like motivation versus just showing up. And I think what you're saying, like I've seen people who need the motivation, they require it.
Yeah.
And actually, I don't see them that often because they don't show up like most of the time, or they show up for a short period of time and they're super, you love them, and then you're like, where'd they go?
Yep.
They're no longer here. Like
they're making mobile apps for passive income.
Right. Yeah.
Until the next thing comes out.
Yeah. So I guess how you get motivated is you get some discipline. That's how you find motivation, maybe.
I think it's super, super, super important to have that. But it's part of our list here of potential things. Part of that motivation, part of that discipline, I think it really comes from the communities that we choose to interact in, and how do we actually make that connection with colleagues. I'll give him a shout out on the show. James Lau is one of these people. He's in post status. I go live on YouTube. He's there with the comments. He shows up. I'm live on different shows. Boom, there he is. Super plugged in, super connected. I'm always happy to see him. Every now and then he asks me for advice. I'm a little further along in the agency world than he is. But he does like development stuff that I don't do, right? And it's like that connection to me has value. We haven't exchanged dollars, but the connection is valuable, right?
And this is another question that's that I've been thinking about is like, I have a friend who runs an agency very similar to mine. Like it's almost identical in many ways. Same size. We live in the same town. Our clients are the same. We have, we're competing for the same clients basically. He told me the other day he does zero marketing. And I do a ton of marketing, this podcast included, if like, and I was like, this is kind of like what you're saying. Like there's something valuable to me about this conversation. I don't know that it's going to lead to more leads, but like it is motivating. I didn't show up here at 11 when we started. I didn't show up motivated. I'm motivated now, like really engaged. And I'm like, let's go.
I wasn't very motivated to talk to Kurt today at all, but I forced myself to do it.
Yeah. I mean, it felt good. Like I wasn't down or anything. I just think like if here's the curve of my like excitement over the course of this conversation, like
that's almost painful, Toby. It's almost painful. But if we think about it, your friend does no marketing, runs the same size agency. You do a ton of marketing. At what point, because I've tried this, I've said, hey, you know what, I'm doing okay, but I could do better. Let's run a few Facebook ads and see what happens. Nothing happens. Let's run a couple of Google ads and see what happens. What did happen was Google overcharged me for what I said I'd sign up for, right? I had to fight with them for a refund that became a credit. Apparently they went to school with you. Like these things don't seem to work. And then, so I'm on WP Tonic, the WP Minute with you right now, on the Lifter LMS calls. And now I fear what has happened is people have said, oh crap, he's the expert. He's going to be too expensive. Like now I feel like I may have crossed a threshold, which is great. Like enterprise clients are going to search out Manana no Mas and go, oh, we have to use you. You're the expert. But all of my like potential like smaller jobs they're thinking to themselves, man, I got to find someone that follows Kurt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah. So like potentially, and maybe you don't want, maybe you're an agency, that would be way more comfortable with non huge company, like some medium and small size. I'm not saying Manana's that, but like, because I think Manana would love to get those enterprise clients. But
I love having two or three of those projects at
mm-hmm.
once, because I love big projects. But if I have five of them, my
Yeah,
mental gymnastics get to be too much.
yeah,
So what I like is like two decent sized projects that are stretched out over time, right, in the project management system and fun to watch. Because I love the big projects and the intricacies of them. But then I like a lot of little projects to pepper in
mm-hmm.
between because it keeps that. Well, in our vocabulary today, those little projects are the motivation things.
Yeah.
You
And so
know, it's boom, 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 boom,
maybe
boom.
like the nature of your marketing is turning off some of those smaller projects, which is interesting.
Yeah.
And vice versa. Like, maybe my like nuts and bolts marketing is turning off agency, or I'm turning off big corporate clients.
Well, I think we have enough time and we might wrap up with this topic right here. Talk to me about your latest marketing adventure on LinkedIn.
Yes. So, I've contracted with a guy in town. His name's Colin. He runs this program called Rainmaker, and I bet you if you Googled Rainmaker, there's a million Rainmaker programs. But his thing, first of all, we should start with like I really trust Colin. Colin, I've known him for a long time. Um, he's been just a good guy to know in the community. Like he hasn't, just I can't say a bad thing about him. I just trust him. And he's like, I got this thing. It's $500 a month, and here's what it is. It's something you could do on your own. So it's kind of like what you're saying. And he told me, so we had a webinar or a one-on-one call. He's like, here's how you could do it yourself. And or if you just want to hire me and we do steps 3, 6, and 7 for you and saves you hours a week potentially. So that's the gist of it. And the core of the program is you do a weekly live stream on LinkedIn and about some topic that you can target to a specific niche on LinkedIn using the LinkedIn filtering tools. And so, for example, like let's say you're someone who wants to get a lot of construction business. You would filter LinkedIn, say you want to filter. I think LinkedIn has like a limit of 2,500 that you can invite at once or something like that. There's some like API limit. So you have to like niche down to a point where it's like less than 2,500. But then you're going to give that same live webinar weekly to that same audience potentially. And then the idea is like you're going to have someone show up at some point that calls you that wants to talk more. So I've started that. I did my first live stream, and I have right now 3 audiences, and my plan is to do 4 audiences. So I have like marketing directors, that's one audience, lawyers is another, small business owners, and then we're thinking like something blue collar-ish, like let's say painting contractors or something. So those are the 4 audiences. We're going to do basically the same presentation every week. For each one, it'll have a different cover card, effectively.
Yeah.
It'll say, hey, this is perfect for painters. Same content, though. And you can go to my LinkedIn and view this thing. I had 8 people register for the first one that accepted the invite. 0 showed up. And that's okay. It wasn't, I was like, whoa, 8 people accepted the invite.
But in LinkedIn, they'll get the reminder to see the replay.
Yeah. And we then follow up. Part of the Collins program is we follow up with an LinkedIn email shortly after saying like with some sort of follow up that has some, hey, schedule a call with me if you'd like, some sort of like action. So my plan is to keep doing this. I don't know. This is the thing about this specific program. It makes more sense to me right now from a sales marketing than any other program I've seen to date. And so I'm not saying it's the perfect one for everyone or the perfect one for me, but I'm like, this clicks with me, like for whatever reason.
Yeah. It's such a weird thing because to hear you talk about this, it reminds me of when I had the Mañana Nomás podcast going full steam. I was putting like a fair amount of work into it, but I wasn't seeing results. And results as in return on investment, right? And I thought to myself, I'm just going to turn this thing off. And then I went to it was when I went to WordCamp San Diego. I'm walking on the bottom floor and someone starts screaming, Kurt, Kurt. I turn around, it's some lady. She's sitting with her friend, and I turn around and she goes, I knew it was you. And I'm like, who is this? Like, I don't remember you from high school. And she says, are you the Mañana No Mas guy? And that was the first time that someone had ever said that to me. And I was like, what? And she goes, oh, I've been watching your podcast for years. It's so good, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, how many people watch this thing and never comment, never like, never share, never subscribe?
Uh-huh.
Like, what is the net that's being spread by this tool? And then Spotify, who I distribute through, said, your listenership is up 300% this year. Right.
Mm-hmm.
That was a couple of years ago. And that right there, I was like, well, I'm not turning this off.
Right.
Something's working.
And I think like part of it too is like, this is something that I think lots and lots of people get wrong about business. The stories we hear on mainstream media, on Twitter, on X.com, wherever, on LinkedIn, the stories that are posted in Business Insider, New York Times, they generally are things that work for large corporate entities.
Yeah.
And so like we have a limited store of energy as like small business owners and agency owners. And like I always think like there's no way to measure what we're doing, really. Like
No.
this podcast, we have no idea what this podcast might bring in terms of goodwill and let alone leads. Like I always think like we got to do whatever like feels good. Like not, just like, does it feel right for you business owner, or does it not feel right?
Yeah, I lead with a lot of that. But I'm also the guy that'll hop on my mountain bike at 2:00 in the afternoon because it's time to go for a ride. Like I really believe a lot of it has to be driven by people say, well, you can't run your life on feelings. You got to use facts. And I think there's a healthy blend between the two.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm doing, I work with somebody who changes things all the time, all the time. We're changing this menu, this price, this, what's included with this, there's always something changing. And I noticed that even though I'm not adverse to change, I tend to have more of a stick-to-itiveness mindset. Like I'll work with something and I'll say, well, let's look at it in 30, 60, 90 days. At the end of 90 days, I'm like, let's give it another 100 days and see what happens.
Yeah.
I tend to stick with things longer, like the podcast example, like my Power Sport Academy example. And usually the patience does pay off. But there's a certain point where you have to look at facts and go, this is just, it's good work after bad. It's got to go.
Yeah, and I think there's every agency owner. I think it's important that there's if you're getting started, if you're experienced, you already know this, but like every agency owner has a different tolerance for change, really, like and different tolerance for pre-launch thoughtfulness. And like when it comes to me, like testing this SEO product idea, we're just going to make the switch. Like, I'm not going to do research. I'm going to make a gut call really soon on that. We're either going to sell it or not. I'm not even going to think about it twice. And I have a friend who spent 2 years thinking about how to price and position his, let's call it WordPress maintenance plan. And I'm like, who cares? Like, did you sell any in the last 2 years? Like, and like the Mighty Mo, we have a bunch of, customers who rely on us monthly for maintenance, but like every single customer has a different price and different expectations. And like, that's just where I'm comfortable. And I'm like, I'd rather get their money today than get my process perfect tomorrow. Like, and then,
Yeah. I'm a little bit more of a hybrid of the two. I execute pretty quickly. And I would rather offer something at a higher price with the ability to discount it or cut it later than try something cheap and then go through the process of doubling, tripling the price later.
Mm-hmm.
I had to do that with the Power Sport Academy, and I didn't do enough research ahead of time to realize that $1,500 for a year of training is obscenely inexpensive.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I raised the price to 12 grand per dealership, I got more energy on it.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're currently selling that training for $45,000 per dealership.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
when the project started, I was willing to do the training for $1,500.
Sure.
So sometimes you learn the hard way that, I've got to price this thing accordingly. So I think it would have been easier for me to start it like, hey, I can train your dealership for 60 grand and then toss in a 10% discount or something or whatever.
It's hard though, because even now, I've been in business almost 20 years. I haven't. It's like I know and I don't know what people are willing to pay me for SEO because I've been doing WordPress. I have some sense, but even that. Let's talk about WordPress, which I know inside and out. I've been selling it for 18 years or more. Um, I just sold a project that is like double my next highest project for a website redesign, and it's not any more work than all the previous ones. Like it's
Yep.
probably less than many. And I'm like, could I have been charging this whole 18 years? Maybe I could have, maybe not. And then I'm like, this guy paid. This was not an issue for him paying for
Yeah,
this.
there you
And I'm
go.
like, maybe I could charge double this, but I have no idea. Like,
Well, if we brass tacks, and this will be a talk for a future show, if we were to look at what does it cost to develop in the Shopify space? What does it cost to develop in the Webflow space? What does it cost to develop in the Wix space? And then we take a look at the pittance we charge in the WordPress world, when in the end of the story, the customer just wanted a website that worked. They didn't care if it was WordPress, Webflow, Wix, or Squarespace. So why are people in other verticals making more money than we are? Like that doesn't make sense.
right.
And so we need to reevaluate our margins, our pricing, and approach business at large as if we're offering that original value, which is they just want a website that works.
Yep.
I think that's a good thing to end the call on, man. Dude,
I
this
think
has
you're
been
right.
awesome.
Yes.
I've had a really good time. Folks, if you're having a good time watching this Whose WordPress Agency Is This Anyway show, we encourage you, like, subscribe, share, all those things we should have been saying on all of these shows. We need you to do that. When you see the shorts pop up, the little short videos that come up, we need you to like them, share them, send them to your friends. And with that, Toby, we'll see everybody next week. How can people reach you?
Go to LinkedIn, look for my name or themightymo.com.
Perfect. And
How
for
about
me,
you, Kurt?
I'm on LinkedIn. I'm the only Kurt Von Onen on LinkedIn. When you find me, you know you got me. Folks, have a great one.